yeah, I think our plan is for Melvin and I just to share some more thoughts on mettā this week, maybe in the context of the divine abodes, the Brahma Viharas, the 4 parts of kindness that they're taught within. So does that make sense to you, Melvin?
Yeah. Yeah, I still have, I'm going to bring up the PowerPoint,
Please do.
what we came up with, like talking to each other. And of course, there's kind of like nothing new under the sun in a sense. It's just to practice that humility. As Don was talking about the divine abodes, and sometimes they're just that, this kind of these 4 abodes that are kind of divinely appointed, and then as divine beings we all have access to. And the 4 are mettā, which this is goodwill or kindness, and then compassion, or the Pali word is karuna, and then appreciative joy, and then equanimity. So mettā, when it touches pain, it turns into compassion. So as mettā touches pain, it turns to compassion. I think it's reflexive, right? And adaptive to like kind of push pain away. But then we have this tool of mettā to be able to hold it or not hold it, whatever the compassionate thing might be, or to create space. Don, I really loved how in their meditation, that just like giving us permission to like whatever is arising is okay. And that's that quality of spaciousness is really an act of kindness. Yeah. And then mettā touching joy. Don and I were talking about how, actually, Don, would you mind talking about, you reminded me of the day long you did with Lisa Moore and Renee Rivera. Yeah, a couple of
And JD Doyle, a few years ago, we did this day long at EBMC that we called Mudita Revolution. Mudita being this Pali word for appreciative joy, in which we felt like joy, not just our own joy, but like joy in others' joy, was actually the antidote to racial capitalism. Because so much of capitalism both like divides us and like keeps us from actually taking joy in how we show up for each other in our like it's hard to even like feel happy about any kind of work or labor or relationships even sometimes, because of how much capitalism has destroyed our connection to how we show up in the world. And so we're like, okay, we are reclaiming how we are connecting to how we are showing up for ourselves, for each other in the world. And joy feels like the practice for doing this. So we had some fun playing with that, with joy as an important antidote.
Yes, yeah, because as you said, with the capitalism, the training is scarcity. It's like not enough, not enough, not enough. And so even if I'm feeling joy for someone else's joy, which is this divine abode of mudita, that somehow it takes away joy for me, or if someone else is happy. And this is where I want to talk shit. I know it's the social media is, not going away, and it's both and stuff. But one thing like around seeing these snaps of these momentary joys are sometimes makes me feel like I'm not like as happy, like other people are happier than me. And I find it really hard to feel happy for someone else's happiness on the socials. Like it just, there's a disconnect. Maybe there's some growing into that, but it's definitely easier when I have uh, uh, a relationship where my values are aligned with somebody else, like that is where, and Don and our other colleagues doing like that, we have this shared value of like, yeah, I want you to be happy. And it's kind of selfish because then there's like enough space for you to allow my joy to arise, and to be supported. And mudita, I was just talking with someone earlier today about how it's such a good antidote for depression, because it's like, capitalism, the internalization of like that I'm not good enough if I'm not producing more capital, and that sense of like enoughness, and that reminder from other people again that where values are shared, that it's like, wow, there is enough, and then I like the translation for Brahma Viharas of immeasurables too, right? Don, have you found how it's sort of like we don't run out of these divine abodes, right?
Well,
Like,
it makes me think back to your social media example where like that kind of joy is like by definition measurable in likes and hearts.
right. Yeah, right.
It's not an immeasurable joy it's not set up as an immeasurable joy where we're trying to connect with each other through like, oh wow, let me like really just like see what your like beautiful amazing experience was of the tasty food you had last night.
Yeah.
I'm connecting not only around that, but I'm connecting around like, well, why did you have 47 likes on your thing and I only got 12 likes on my thing?
Right.
Like that
Right.
there's also this like sense of measurement
Right.
that comes with it
Right.
that like sets me up in my mind at least for comparing mind, failure, disappointment, rather than just that sense of connection, caring, kindness, and love.
Right. 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 And that's where it touches the mettā, touching pain turns into compassion, right? The sense of like there's a discomfort of not feeling um liked, right? Or and then so that's like the core, that's where mettā touches all the divine abodes. It's like, oh no, may I be happy, and may I know the true causes of happiness. Um, the happiness of being in the here and in the now. It's a phrase. It's a long one, but I've said so many times because it's like, what is true happiness, and the likes are happiness, but they're like pretty momentary, yeah. Um, and that's where this last divine abode of like mettā touching change, and how that turns into equanimity. Um, yeah, so Don, yeah, I think that's pretty deep.
I feel like for me, equanimity, yeah, feels like this opportunity to be like not feel alone in all of what's happening is also part of equanimity. I was sharing with Melvin when I was many years ago at this point, I was doing a lot of work around anti-sexual violence movement work, and was finding that this work around both compassion and equanimity in particular very supportive in advocacy roles, because certainly like compassion work is really important. Like you're touching a lot of people's pain and suffering, and that capacity to connect in with, I care about you. I care about how you might be being harmed. I care about your suffering being relieved. that was really urgent. And there's a way that if I only focus on my compassion, it's very easy to get overwhelmed, burned out, get into some kind of like savior role in which I'm the one who is going to make sure that you're well and taken care of. And so that balance of equanimity, when there is like a lot of chaos and opportunity for change happening, that balance of equanimity was like a really important balancing factor of, in those roles. It was like, I'm not the only person here to support you. There's a lot of change happening here, and there are many people here who are offering support. Like, I care about you, and I also am taking care of myself. That both of those things are going to happen. And really trying to be in connection with sort of a broader sense of how change happens is not dependent on one person's actions.
Right.
I think is part of what that speaks to for me.
Right.
And anytime I get stuck in that kind of thinking, I know I really need to step back, reframe a bit, get a little more balanced and grounded, so that I'm not over meddling, because that can actually cause more harm than support.
Right. Yeah, I mean, that brings up a couple things around like the corporate displacement of guilt onto the individual.
Ooh,
Just
say more.
well, one place I practice mettā a lot is around water. Like I appreciate the water. When I wash my face with water, I say, may I see the beauty in myself and in others, and living, having been born and raised in the state of California, and with drought, there's so much, like, I'm the one that needs to save water, right? That I'm gonna, like you were saying, the saviorism, and that I have, around. So this is my daily practice of mettā. Whenever I lock my front door, I'm saying, may all beings be housed, and to transform the suffering of the pain of, like, living in my own housing insecurity, and then obviously the housing crisis, and it's been a way that mettā has been a way where I can transform that anxiety, and so that it, as you were saying, that it doesn't fall on me, because in a way that's a way to, like, avoid feeling that pain, and that pain in these cases means that I love, that I really care about the other person's suffering, that they're suffering, and just Don, as you were saying, that I'm not responsible. That's an equanimity phrase I've heard. It's like, I feel your pain, but I'm not responsible for it. You are the heir of your own actions, and that works, can work really well with interpersonal relationships, and like familiar, like biological family relationships, because we're the heir to our own karma, and karma is so complex that, in the sense that we're all in this together, that there is a a level of suffering that touches everybody, and so I think, Don, you were referring to that as well, this sense of common humanity, that there is and that it isn't so personal, the suffering that we're experiencing, not to minimize it, but there is a point where mettā can provide space for us to breathe and to not blame ourselves, and and to be able to internalize with that, to be able to transform that internalized oppression.
Yeah, it's where it always feels important to me to like hold all of these together. Like mettā feels like the center, or like the it like holds all of these together as you're sharing here on the slide. And it's like, if I'm only thinking about equanimity and I'm like, I'm not responsible for you, like we can kind of land into too much individualism.
Right.
Or bypass our more karmic responsibilities for white supremacy or patriarchy. And so it's helpful to like hold that then with compassion of like, oh, but I do care about you. Like your pain matters to me.
Right. Sure.
And like then also like staying connected to people through this sense of joy, like all of those things together is like, feels like to me part of what can make up the whole of kindness in relationship to myself, to other beings. And so if I'm like if I'm having a hard time with kindness, it can be helpful to kind of be like, ooh, am I like too much in one of these, and can I balance it out in some way, has been actually a helpful practice for me.
Sure.
Because often, for me at least, I'm often like over compassioned and need more equanimity, but you might be different.
I'm not.
But yeah, for other people, and often it's also like I just need more joy.
Right.
Like I think it's equanimity, but it's actually like more joy would be helpful.
Right. Yeah, and I'm just thinking of what blocks joy for me is that vulnerability. Yeah, that it's like, it's this foreboding joy. Like I don't, because any if I feel joy, then it's gonna be something bad is around the corner, or just trying to bring back the word gay, right? That means joy or happy, but that fundamentally as queer folks that we weren't allowed to experience that freedom of expression of our full selves, right? And so that it's been stunted in a way, and we had to a lot of us had to hide it, right? And so I think that's
yeah.
So joy becomes and during the meditation, Don, you really just allow anything to come up. It's all natural. And as I was feeling like really kind to myself, I was like, my anger came up, and I'm like, fuck everyone that's like trying to tell me not to be kind to myself. So I'm feeling that a little bit with the joy. It's like to allow myself to feel joy is revolutionary, in the face of all the suffering, that there isn't, that doesn't, that we actually need joy to hold that suffering, that's and to be happy for someone else's happiness is like, it's pretty counterculture, a lot of cultures, dominator cultures.
Well, I appreciate everyone's presence here, and offering just whatever has been of benefit here. letting that like opportunity for connecting with kindness for yourself or others, letting yourself feel into that. Feeling into whatever feelings are associated with that. So allowing that, appreciating Melvin, your like fierceness around protecting your sense of joy. Perhaps this year of the water tiger can bring that sense of fierceness and protection for these parts of ourselves.
And the reminder of abundance, that there is enough to go around. Yeah, and and the importance of being around other folks that remind us of that, and folks were complicated, so that was the invitation around going into other realms of beings, like our animal companions and the earth and the trees, and so because it's a lot of it's too much for just one person to hold. It's not meant for any one person to hold, and with that we'll dedicate the merit, as it's traditional in this practice, to whatever merit or benefit that we may have generated in our time together. May it continue to resonate in your body and those around you, seen and unseen, with the hope and the prayer that all beings, that includes us, all beings, be safe and protected and free from harm. And may all beings be happy, know the true causes of happiness, and may all beings be free from suffering. All right. So thank you all for your practice.